status quo are not acceptable. We need to start thinking differently and acting differently, and thank you for the challenge. It was my dream to have a bunch of questions and have a lively participation, but we've got so many wonderful guests up here, we need to keep moving. I'd like to call on Senator Barbara Favola. We thank her for her amazing work in Richmond. She got something done that took us 15 years. An increase in TANF. Everybody give her a round of applause. Lesson thinking about the status quo. It took 15 years to put a chip or a dent in it, and it was Barbara Favola who did it, so thank you.
John, thank you. That's a very gracious introduction. And clearly you all did all that work for 15 years, so you got it right to maybe a yard from the goalie, and I managed to get it over the top. So. But what I did is I took your idea, and thank you, by the way, and I massaged it in a way that was a little less offensive to the folks who had been objecting to the proposal. It is a 2.5% one-time increase in TANF. In the past, we had been going forward with a proposal that was, we want an ongoing increase, perhaps tied to the Consumer Price Index, or perhaps tied to when state employees got a raise. That was just too frightening for the budget conferees, because it was a continual ongoing money. So I figured, geez, and we have to do something, because we hadn't had an increase in actually 15 years. So, so we did get it through. So this one-time thing, I'm going to go back and try to get it structured so that TANF families get an increase at the same time foster families do, because I think there's some equity there. So we'll see how well I do in the future. I had some other successes and some other disappointments, and I think you and I will probably share the same view on what was success and what was a disappointment. I've been working for 3 years on this Fostering Connections program. It is a program where the state can draw down federal money to continue subsidies for foster youth until the age of 21. Right now, our foster youth at the age of 18 leave the system, and in many jurisdictions in the state are eligible for independent living services, but they don't have the full array of support that this Fostering Connections program would provide, and would also provide to parents who adopt foster children at the age of 16 years or older. It is a very successful program. The federal government would pay 75%, and it comes at a time where the foster youth are trying to establish themselves. They're trying to go on with their education. They're trying to go on with job training. Both of those topics actually are a requirement of Fostering Connections. They have to go on with their education or job training, and they need financial support. Study after study show that if you don't provide this support, our foster youth are likely to become homeless. Substance abuse will become a part of their lives, and many of them will end up in our jail system. Only 3% of our foster youth get a college degree because they don't have that support between the ages of 18 and 21. So, to the speaker's point, when we heard earlier, our guest speaker was saying we need transformational change. We need to approach things in a way that will be systemic and sustainable. And if you help these kids, you're going to make a difference. You're going to put a dent in the cycle of poverty. And I'm going to meet with the budget conferees once again, and I just want you to know that Fostering Connections was in Governor McDonald's budget and in Governor McCullough's budget, and we still couldn't get it through, with 75% of federal funds paying for it. Oh, so I had both a Republican and a Democratic governor. So we struggled, but we're not done. Minimum wage, I did put in a minimum wage bill, and it would have given local jurisdictions the authority to implement a minimum wage after a referendum. That went down. A number of lawmakers did put in minimum wage bills. Senator Marsden put in a minimum wage bill. They all went down. And it was very discouraging, but the Republicans identified that, and I think incorrectly, but they identified it as one of these hot button issues, one of these issues where they wanted to draw a distinction between what the Republican platform would be and what the Democratic platform would be. And so I think that was unfortunate, because I really do believe that narrowing that income gap is in everybody's best interest. Some of my successes, I worked with AERP, who's also one of your partners. We got a hospital discharge bill through, which will require hospitals to ask patients to name a family member or loved one who is living in their home, who will be responsible for follow-up care. And then the hospital will have to train and provide information to that family member. So, so that was a good thing. I just want to say the family member or loved one did not have to live in the home, but the point was to try to provide a seamless system of care when a patient is released from the hospital. And this was a national effort by the AARP, and that did pass. I also got a bill passed which will require home care agencies and hospices, when they have taken disciplinary action against an employee, to now report that disciplinary action to the State Department of Health. I did work on the sexual assault bill, and my amendment actually passed the House and the Senate, and that amendment essentially protects the identity of the survivor who comes forward at a college campus, but requires a more robust investigation into the actual allegation. So there's a threat assessment team that's required already. We added law enforcement to it, and some other requirements that sort of gave the whole system a more robust investigative arm into the crime. But my bill also provided more services to the victims. So it would require colleges and universities to actually have memorandums of understanding with the communities or sexual assault centers in the communities, et cetera, et cetera. Now on guns, I put a bill in, as did Delegate Murphy, which would have removed guns temporarily from those, mind you, who have already been convicted of sexual assault misdemeanors for stalking, sexual assault, and sexual battery.
Twice. We had two.
Mine had one, but there was, yeah. It was, and then I went through an amendment where we were only going to remove the bill for 2 years. Remove the gun for 2 years. We were first going to remove the gun for 5 years. Both of us were very accommodating to as many reasonable requests as we could possibly address in that bill. We just really think that good public policy actually suggests that you follow data. And
No, that's horrible. No.
Well, as a member of our delegation, who's actually very progressive, but is taken by a little bit from his colleagues on the other side of the aisle in the House. Study after study demonstrated that individuals who do perpetrate violent behavior will always escalate that behavior. So if you're going to get somebody who has been convicted of sexual assault or sexual battery, rest assured that that violence will in fact escalate, and a woman is 7 times more likely to die in a domestic violence dispute if a firearm is in place. So we were armed with really good data, and we had wonderful support from activists, et cetera, but the bills just didn't get out. So I would say that this, sensible gun control, gun safety issues, that was another area where the Republicans chose to differentiate themselves, and in my view, and in the view of most political observers, the Republicans aligned themselves with a very small minority group that is just in the pocket of the NRA or the Citizens Defense League. What else can I tell you? I guess I'll stop here. I did work on improving our child day home situations, because many of us know that the Washington Post did an investigation on child home daycare providers, and there's just not much of a regulatory framework. We did make some progress, but not enough. So I will continue.